You don't want to read it out loud, that's for sure, and you don't want to read it in public, and you definitely wouldn't read it like to your grandma. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddie, and we're going to be talking about my favorite topic, smut. I do smut updates every few months, and now I'm doing my final 2023 smut update. If you just want to see my top smutty recommendations of the year, that'll be at the end of this video, and timestamps are down below. Oh no, did you guys see those? They've been sitting beside me the whole time. The first book that I want to talk about that I read back in August, I think, is Wait For It by Mariana Zapata. I had to make sure that's what it was called. When I was first reading it, I thought it was Wait For You for the longest time. This book is about Diana and Dallas. Diana and Dallas are new neighbors. Diana has two sons that are not biologically her sons. I'm pretty sure they're her nephews. She's raising them full-time by herself. And Dallas, the next door neighbor, he is a grouchy neighbor. Like, think Luke from Gilmore Girls times 10. Dallas is kind of like my dream book man. Like, he is so broody and I love it. I love it when the only emotion they give is grouch. In true Mariana Zapata fashion, the smut does not happen until the end of the book. Mariana Zapata is known for her lengthy romance books. This one's almost 700 pages. It's a dense book. It's a brick. It feels like a brick too. I think a good smutty book takes its time. I don't really like erotic books. I'm not looking for on page 5 like something to happen. I like the tension and the build up and the relationship and the plot. That's my good smutty book. Like, I know Katie Robert does really good smut. Even Emily McIntyre, I love her smut, but it does happen pretty quick. Although I like those books, my favorite kind of smut is the slow burn, and Mariana Zapata does slow burn so good. I have a whole shelf, this one right here, dedicated to Mariana Zapata because of how much I love her. So if you haven't read her yet, I'm ashamed of you. I haven't done this before in my past smutty update videos, but I wanted to give you guys a page number if you guys want to flip to. Turn to page 630 is kind of when, I don't think this is the first one, but this is my favorite one. There's not a lot of dialogue in her smutty scenes, which I really like, and it's slow and intimate. Because it's already a slow-paced book, the smutty scenes come very naturally. The scenes themselves are pretty slow, so they're long, sexy scenes, but they're taken at a slower pace, so there's not a lot of that like anticipation and rush and like feeling that you usually get when you read smut. I think that she takes it really slow in a really natural way. It might not be the smuttiest book out there, it's definitely not, but Mariana Zapata knows how to write smut really well and knows how to do the build-up properly. So if you really like that build-up and that tension, this is where it's at. The next one is Caught Up by Liz Tom Ford. Mile High and The Right Move took romance to a new level for me. I feel like Liz Tom Ford does romance in a way that it's super real. Like, I feel like these characters are really relatable and have the most realistic trauma that romance can provide. Kai is a single dad and Miller becomes his son's babysitter for the summer. I will say this one compared to the other two was not my favorite plot-wise, but I think the smut is equal, if not better than, because Kai is one dirty motherfucker. Dirty talking, glasses wearing motherfucker. Kai and Miller both kind of dominate for the higher ground the whole time in this book. I feel like there's a lot of tension, not just in the sexual sense, but also in the fact that like, I'm just as badass as you. We can fight, we can put up with each other. And he does kind of have an attitude up front, but so does she. It's so good, it's so good. And they start out, I think the first sexy scene, there's a lot of tension leading up to it obviously, but it's on page 200. It is the first smutty scene, but it's also one of my favorites in the whole book. But they are doing it under the pretenses that there are no strings attached. It's just sex. They're both attracted to each other. Obviously between the lines there's so much more, and like you can even see like when you're in Miller's perspective and in her head she's like, this is just sex, it's just sex. She keeps repeating that. It's obviously not just sex. But one of my favorite parts about this scene is Kai and his mouth. He needs to wash it out with soap. That's what he needs to do. Caught Up, again, not my favorite of this series, but I can't wait for the fourth one, which I think is called Play Along. And I will gladly play along with Liz Tom Ford for as long as she writes these books. And then you guys are probably so sick of me talking about this book. I'm so sorry, but I'm not, because if you haven't read it yet, you're gonna have to read it after I talk about it. Butcher and Blackbird. Rowan and Sloane are both serial killers. I, again, have talked about this book too many times to really go into the plot. If you want to hear about the plot, go watch the other few videos that I've talked about it in, but the smut in this, you guys, the plot is coursed over 4 years. Like, these two, Sloane and Rowan, have had a lot of buildup, and they haven't had any sexual togetherness in 4 years. They are just like friends for about 4 years. But year 4, when she ends up coming to New York, I think it's New York, Boston, to a big city where Rowan lives, he owns a restaurant, but he's opening a new one. And this new restaurant is their restaurant. He dedicated this restaurant to both of them. Page 257. Okay, so he's just showing her this restaurant. It's adorable. Real adorable. Face the counter and pull your dress up, Sloane. Okay. Yeah, I can't read any more of this out loud. Again, in the past few months, this is probably the best smut that I've read. There's some trigger warnings. It's really gory. There's a little bit of cannibalism involved. Other adult things, like not just the smut. Like, there's a lot more going on, so that I would look into before you read this book. So between August to December, that's it. That's all I really, really loved smut-wise the past few months. Before we get into my top smut of 2023, I want to talk about some honorable mentions and some DNFs that I do consider very, very smutty. So let's talk about the first and only DNF that I'm going to say in this video. Pucking Around. Guys, this book made me blush. It's a 25-hour audiobook. I got about 14 hours through, and I said, I can't do it anymore. It was exhausting. It is reverse harem. There are 3 men and 1 girl. The 3 men are all on the same hockey team, hence pucking around. And then it's their doctor. HIPAA is not very high. Is it HIPAA? I had to pause sometimes to either cringe or laugh or be like, wait a damn second, you guys. I'm like stuttering. I don't even have words. I don't have words to describe the smut in this book. I do really like it. I do, and again, like you guys know, I like smut, but when the smut is the only part of the book, there's little plot and it's minimal and the characters are somewhat annoying. I didn't love it. That is why I DNF'd it. I could have finished the whole thing if it was like a 9-hour audiobook, like if it was 300 pages. Pretty sure this book was like 800 some pages, but if it was a shorter book and the characters, if it was just smushed, I think I would have actually liked this book. But there was a lot going on, and I really love reverse harem, but I think even after reading that book, I think I've realized I'm more of a fantasy reverse harem kind of person. I don't think I like Why Choose in like a contemporary setting. I would be listening to it in my car and I would like turn the volume down thinking that people could hear. Now, some honorable mentions that like obviously have great smut, but just didn't make it into like my top 3 or 5 of each quarter. The Twisted series by Anna Huang. No plot whatsoever in any of these books, but the smut was damn good. Yeah, I've read Twisted Love, Twisted Games, and Twisted Hate. The green one, I haven't read that one yet. Broken Bonds, reverse harem, fantasy. It is a Kindle Unlimited book. It's a lot of books, 6 books, but I would say around book 3 to 4 is when it loses the pacing for me. It gets super repetitive after book 4. I think there's 4 guys in that one, or 5. Another one, Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. Again, anything that you read by Mariana Zapata, you will be wanting more. You won't be able to put it down. I usually read her books in like 3 days, and they're like 600-700 pages. They're very worth it, and they're all somewhat connected, which I find is really cool. Now that we're done with the honorable mentions, the DNFs, let's get to the top books of the year. And again, I have done this video a few times. So I did it from January to April right here. Then I did it from May to August right here. And now this is August to December. If I'm taking all 3 of these videos and I pick 3 recommendations, that's what I'm gonna do. I didn't even talk about Iron Flame. I don't think I want to though. None of y'all are gonna be surprised. I think this one has the best balance of humor, spice, plot, but this is definitely my top smutty book. Okay, the next one I would have to say is Love Theoretically. Ali Hazelwood just knows how to do smut and spice, like that's what we all read her for. And I haven't read the Checked and Mate yet. I know that's young adult and doesn't have spice, but I really love her writing anyway, so I'm gonna read that for sure. Toes curling kind of spice, like really, really cute. Until I Get You. This one is dark. It's a sports romance. It's kind of spooky at some points. In the spice, you are on the edge of your seat because it is intense. There is intense spice in this. And it's a discreet cover. Like, you would never think from the cover of this book that she's getting, you know, it's just spicy. It's really spicy. That's kind of crazy to think about. These are my top 3 smutty books of the year. Thank you guys for tuning in. These are my favorite kinds of videos to make. I love recommending you guys books, especially when it revolves around spice. If you want this sweatshirt, books with spice and everything nice, it is linked down in my bio and my Etsy shop, Fireheart Embroidery. I will see you guys in the next video, you horny motherfuckers.